The scammers see an opportunity where there is a window of panic. Something that everyone fears, I think, is losing their income, losing your savings. So what they do is they use pressure, panic.
This scam industry is worth
Billions.
multi-billions. People, when they go to buy a car or a house, they ask 101 questions. When they ask for any investments, where do I sign?
You're left with a broken wallet and a broken heart.
Please don't do that to me.
And the fact that you cannot get rich quickly.
Is there a difference between the way men and women behave in these areas? Men and women are equal, but when you look into it, when you look at the numbers and the reality on life, it's not as clear-cut as it should be. Welcome to the She Word, conversations women rarely have but really should. And welcome to a special edition of the She Word. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that I think most of us find quite hard to talk about, but is possibly one of the most important topics that we need to discuss. In the recent episode, 10 Essential Things That Every Woman Should Know, Sue Caruana stated that every woman should be guided from an early age to save money for the future. And this is an issue that keeps coming up in She Word discussions, but we don't often tackle this head on. I think that almost every woman will agree that financial security and a measure of financial independence is crucial. But I suspect that few of us feel as financially secure as we'd like to. So in this show, I'm sitting down with 3 financial experts from the MFSA to delve into a number of areas that we could all do with guidance on. Scam and protection, investments and our financial future, starting young, tips and hacks for our financial futures, and the fact that it's never too late. So, bringing this expertise to the table, first up is Adelina Nechita. Now, you are a young member of MFSA Enforcement team, investigating issues such as scams, non-compliance, and interestingly, you have a degree in criminology. Adelina, I'm already fangirling all over you because I'm so...
I was a fan first, Trudy.
There's a lot of love on the table. But your regulatory background combined with your expertise in criminal behaviour has nurtured this really strong commitment to consumer protection. And I'm really looking forward to getting into that in just a moment. But before we get there, hello, Sarah Pulis is joining us, the head of conduct supervision. You're a seasoned regulator and advocate for financial empowerment and been doing this for 20 years. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with you. Lorraine Vella, hello.
Hi.
Hello and welcome. Head of Capital Markets Supervision. And you can help us sort through all of the jargon and help us gain confidence.
I'll do my best.
To navigate today's financial markets. I'm going to stay with you first of all, Lorraine. I'm so glad you're at the table, but tell me a little bit more about you and how you got into your field.
Oh my gosh, you're taking me 25 years back in time. Yeah. So it wasn't by choice it's more by chance. So financial regulation at that time was at its infancy, you can say. Even the financial markets in general and capital markets as well. We had only a few number of companies listed back then. I joined the registry of companies. Now it's called the MBR.
Okay.
Which dealt with companies, registration, and so on. And then I got curious to know more about the subject, and I advanced then to capital markets.
Can I ask a bit of a personal question? But
Yeah.
did you know as a 10-year-old that you wanted to go into finances and
No.
these sort? Ooh.
Not at all, no.
Ooh. Okay. So how did that come about?
Well, I didn't really like languages.
Okay.
Or geography or history. So, by elimination, I ended up studying accounting.
Okay.
And then I proceeded normal school, secondary, university. I chose Bachelor of Commerce.
Uh-huh.
Then I saw this vacancy with the financial regulator back then the building was new and fancy, you know.
You fell for the building?
Oh, yes. It was like, you know, a majestic building. And I went for an interview just to check it out.
Well, you see, this is really interesting because I also know that there are a very high percentage of women now entering into the financial sector.
Yeah.
But was there back then when you came into work in finances?
I think, yes. I think,
Wow.
yes, I was very lucky. I was always surrounded by women
Okay.
and men, you know, like 50-50, I would say. So, so it was, you know.
This is really, really interesting. We're going to dive into this a little bit later on because I believe that women are lagging behind our male counterparts when it comes to financial literacy and financial independence. However, in the financial sector, which is where you ladies are working, obviously there's a fairly even shift. So I think that in itself is really fascinating. Adelina, thank you for being at the table.
for having
Okay,
me.
we're fangirling over each other already, but explain to me how you got into the industry that you're in right now.
I have a different story to Lorraine. So I always was interested in how people work, how people think, how people make decisions. So when I decided on my criminology degree, I went with that mentality. I want to know why people commit crime, why they act, which is why the degree was perfect for me. And then with that degree, I said, how can I help people with the knowledge I'm gaining at university? So the regulator was it's a different way of entering and helping people. So police is obvious that they help people, nurses, doctors, but you wouldn't say that at first glance that, you know, the regulator is there as a, you know, protector to society, but we are. So from my end, I want to investigate, find out what's happening, and as much as possible, prevent crime. So that's my background. That's where I came from.
So you're a cross between Miss Marple and Superwoman. I mean, this is like we've got an actual real life superhero sitting at the table.
Too much, but I am trying my best. And I was lucky to have people like Sarah and Lorraine who guided me. In fact, Sarah and I work a lot together on financial literacy. So I use my first-hand experience with scams combined with Sarah's experience on consumer protection, and we come together and
This
are
is
a
a
perfect
great
team on
team.
how we
Yes,
can
we are.
protect consumers better, because I see, unfortunately, the victim firsthand. And Sarah sees, you know, the companies, how they act, how they shouldn't act, how they should act. And we put that together to guide the people out there. That's the goal.
Before I move on to Sarah, I just want to ask one question. When you go to dinner parties or nights out, do people, are they a bit wary? They're like, oh, is she assessing me to find out if
The first,
face
to be
says
honest,
yes.
Every time when I say, oh, what do you do? I work in enforcement. They're like, enforcement? Like, that's, first of all, they say, oh, that's really cool. Then they're like, what does that even mean? What do you even do? So yes, I do get a bit of a question mark face when I say what I work. But then when I explain exactly where they're coming from, you know, we're setting standards for the industry. We're here to protect you. That's where we're coming from. They're like, okay, I'm understanding you now.
I like this. Very, very nice. Now, you referenced Sarah here. Sarah, you're head of conduct supervision. Give me a little bit more of information about yourself.
So I've been with the MFSA for 25 years. In fact,
Lalu, you're a long time.
Lorraine and I joined.
50 years of experience here.
Lorraine and I joined on the same day. Yes, we're MFSA twins.
Wow.
I still remember sitting at reception together on our first day and getting called to our respective offices. Yes,
You guys are so cute.
I was working at that time in the investment service supervision unit. It was called that day, and it used to regulate investment firms and funds. The area was very new to me. I'm a lawyer by profession. I spent some time working as a notary, but then I felt I want some bit more engagement, some more interaction. I can't say that financial services was my first call, but I could understand the importance of people actually needing money to live and how people were trusting other institutions with their money. And the fact that I could be in a position where I could ensure that this trust is being placed in the really right places, that was what really triggered me to continue
Wow.
my career over at MFSA. So obviously, yes, then we moved forward. As time progressed, the conduct supervision function was established in 2015, which focused more on conduct. Conduct is the way our regulated entities behave towards their customers.
Whoa, back up there.
Okay. Entities.
Regulated entities
Yes,
are what?
In order to provide a financial service, you need a license from the MFSA. Financial
You need a what
service,
from the MFSA?
a license.
Okay, you need a license from the MFSA.
Financial service being anything to do with finance, so banking, insurance, investments. To provide those services, you need a license from the authority.
And you need a license, why?
Because, first of all, because the law says so. Secondly, the authority vets these people.
Okay.
So it checks that people providing these services are fit and proper persons. This circles back to trust. The authority makes sure that the people to whom they trust their money, the entities to whom people trust their money, know what they're doing, they have strong backing, they have strong positions, and they continue to behave in the best interests of their clients.
So, to put it in simple terms, if I decided to set up a banking service, God forbid, and I wanted to launch a business, I would need to come to you. I'd need to be vetted by you, background checks on me. You'd need to make sure that my business structure was correct. And then your job is to make sure that I am conducting myself in a way that is in accordance with the standards set by the government, but also overseen by the MFSA.
Yes, there are a number of regulations as well nowadays, also issued by the EU, which we need to follow. But we do that, and it's a very good point that you raised. It's an ongoing process. It's not just you get a license, now you're good to go.
Yes.
It's an ongoing process. So we monitor ongoing all the time. We supervise.
Fantastic.
If you don't behave, you hear from me.
Exactly. That's when Adelina comes in.
Now I'm a little bit nervous of Adelina. We're going to stick with Adelina. I'm going to dive straight into this topic of scams because we're going to kick off with this one because I think this probably touches almost every single person, if not personally, somebody that they know. I have family members who have been scammed out of thousands. Now, I tend to be quite skeptical and even when the phone rings, somebody says, is this Trudy Kerr? And I'm going to say, well, who is this? Before I even answer and say, yes, it is. I am that person. I am that difficult. But that's not necessarily how everybody is. So we know that scams are becoming more convincing, more creative. And I want to kick off by asking you, Adelina, where are we at with scams? What is the most common? What are we talking about right now?
Everything. We are seeing every sector being attacked from every angle. So something that we're seeing a lot is what we're calling a pig butchering scam.
A what? A
pig butchering scam. It is a very
pig
awful...
butchering.
Yes, pig. I was just making sure I got that right. Pig butchering scam.
To explain it is basically you fatten up the pig before you cut it up. It's horrible, but that's basically what scammers are doing to the victims. So they groom the victim really, really well, and then they scam them of their monies. So it sounds really cruel, but they're combining, I don't know, you've heard of romance scams, I'm sure before, where you build a relationship with someone, your friends, or you're in a relationship. This is a combination between a romance or a friendship scam and a financial scam. So let's say I meet Trudy. We're going to be friends for a few months. We're going to go out for coffees, or we're going to be online only.
Oh,
okay. And then I say, Trudy, I've had the best opportunity for you. I know this website, abc.com. I've already made thousands. You trust me because we're friends, right, Trudy?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's do it together. And then I take your money, I give you a little bit back. I take more, I give you a little bit back. And then I take more and more. And then
I disappear.
And you're left with a broken wallet and a broken heart at the same time.
Please don't do that to me.
I would never.
But okay, so this is one type of scam. It's called the pig butchering scam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or romance scam.
The romance scam.
Yeah.
And this is, let me get this understood. This is something that could happen in person.
It can,
Or
but
it's more likely
not
to
very
be online?
common. It's not very common. The most common is online, WhatsApp chats, Telegram, Messenger, Facebook.
I think it picks up a lot on what people post on social media because the scammers usually profile check and they pick out vulnerable clients, vulnerable victims, so to speak. So persons who are passing through a hard time and post about it on Facebook or their socials.
That's
So
true.
they actually pinpoint the people. You get a contact out of the blue asking to be your friend, enticing you. You're in a vulnerable position. You open your heart. You open yourself to this person, and he basically
This is
cheats you on your trust.
Okay, but let me just dive a bit into that because I see this on, let's say, the Daily Mail from the UK. You'll see a big article about this has happened and so on. But you're saying it's actually quite common. We don't hear about this in commonplace. Is this because people don't want to talk about it?
I think
there's
so.
a very
Sometimes you're a bit ashamed.
shame.
No?
I think
there's a lot of shame with it.
Yeah, I think shame is one of the main reasons why there's a lot of underreporting of
Exactly.
scams.
Because you
No
say,
one likes saying.
I was so stupid. How could I believe
exactly.
Adelina? She was just trying to be my friend and I fell for it.
Okay, so we've got a situation where vulnerable members of society are targeted,
It can be
specifically
anyone.
targeted. Oh,
It
okay,
can
not
be
just
anyone.
yes, yes.
Don't feel ashamed if anyone that's listening, if this happened to you, don't feel ashamed because this can happen to anyone. You can be a director, you can be someone with, no degree. They have no profiling necessarily. What Sarah was explaining is what we call social engineering. So you have a social persona on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever. And that information is used against you, either with the help of AI or with the help of, a human interaction. They gather that information on Trudy. And I know Trudy likes X thing, right? I use that to become your friend. I use that to gain your trust. I use that to know, Sarah is in the financial regulator, so probably I'm not going to approach Sarah. So they are very, very intelligent and they are complex schemes. These are not one person in a basement. These are companies, these are individuals, these are
Organized crime.
organized
basically.
crime.
And I think the scammers trust attack the humans in us, not the knowledge, not the behavior. Attacks the
emotions.
emotion.
Can happen to
So
anyone.
exactly, we've seen people being scammed who range from top executives to other people, normal people in the street. So there's no bar. So don't feel ashamed. If you've been scammed, please report.
Come
please
forward.
We're going to come to
come
that in just a
forward.
second because that's a really important part. But before we come to the action that you can take if you've been scammed, let's talk about for a second other kinds of scams because something that has hit my family personally, not myself, but is Revolut scamming.
Yes.
Where you get somebody phoning up and saying that Revolut has been infiltrated and Revolut is something that touches so many of us. So many people have a Revolut account and there's limited communication with Revolut. So it's not as if it's a personal, it's not like you go into a high street bank and you recognize the person. It's a remote banking service. What is it that's going on? Because so many people I know are getting these scams.
What's happening is that the scammers see an opportunity where there is a window of panic. So something that everyone fears, I think, is losing their income, right? So losing access to your account, losing your savings. So what they do is they use pressure, panic, deadlines. Okay, I'm going to call Sarah. If you don't act now, I'm going to close your account. So people, unfortunately, act on that panic and they don't pause and think. This is the number one thing we say: pause, think, then act. Because they're aiming on you, acting on your panic. And the Revolut is just probably an easy target. Revolut are doing their best probably to all entities are trying to stop
And
this
it's
from
not
coming.
just Revolut,
Yeah,
there are
exactly.
Microsoft as well, where
Anywhere.
people calling up, I'm from Microsoft. I mean, unless you give me your password and your access, your system's going to freeze, you lose all your data. What do?
You
Gut
panic.
reaction, you panic and you give access. You're giving access to your data on your computer, laptops, or whatever. That means they can steal your identity. They can,
I just feel alive. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I got that lifestyle, I'm fierce as hell. That girl, top model, that husky fast throttle. Living it up, you know I love you. It said I just feel alive. 'Cause all I got
Well, this is interesting because I mentioned before we sat down that I had interviewed a long time ago. I interviewed Frank Abagnale, who was the gentleman who was in the film Catch Me If You Can. And this interview that I had really hit me profoundly because this gentleman who was in his 80s and has made an absolute incredible career of anti-corruption, anti-fraud, anti-scamming, because he was so good at it. He said 98% of the population have had their identity stolen at one time or another. And for some of us, we are less useful than others. And we were talking about this before we sat down. As you get older, you become less useful to have identity theft because you have more protection. He was actually saying that the most important demographic is before you get to 18, teenagers, because you can do a lot with their identity before they even know that their identity has been stolen. So my question to you would be, let's start with we'll dive into a little bit other scams in just a second, but how do we protect our identity? You just mentioned someone phoning up and saying, give me your password. I mean, this is fairly obvious, but you also mentioned that panic. And you said, if someone's doing that, slow down.
Breathe, pause. No appropriate authority or company or anyone that is respectable will push you into a decision or into some kind of, a respectable bank will never say now or never. They have to give you the time to think. This is Sarah's area, but I will just mention they have to give you that time to make an appropriate decision. So be it Revolut, be it another bank, you cannot pressure your consumer in any way. That is completely a big no-no. So as a consumer, you need to pause, think, okay, this is not how they should be acting towards me. I'm their client, they need to give me time to think. Don't rush me. And secondly, be a bit paranoid. It doesn't hurt to be cautious. So I call myself a bit paranoid. Okay, someone's calling me, they want something. Okay, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to think. I'm going to find the appropriate source. So if some bank is claiming to be calling me, I find the original number of the bank, call the bank or go to the branch. I'm not going to call back the same number and then realize that it's someone else pretending to be the bank or spoofing their number. I can explain.
Okay,
if you want.
spoofing is something that I myself have been a victim of. Happened last year. Somebody called me on a Maltese number, kept asking me, are you Trudy Kara? And I kept saying, well, who are you? I'm not going to confirm. And they ended up having this huge rant at me and throwing massive amount of abuse at me. When we dived into this local number, it turns out, hello, David. It was a local gentleman. It was his number that had been spoofed. What is this? Because this is really dangerous.
So the technology behind it, I'm not an expert on technology, but from my experiences, through the use of technology, they can scramble up the information that shows up on your phone. Okay, so instead of being a phone number from a different jurisdiction, it will scramble up to a random number from your jurisdiction, so from Malta. So David just happened to be unlucky. It could be anyone. They just scramble up a number. It shows up as Maltese. So then you're like, oh, this is a local number. It could be the Posta. It could be whatever.
Yeah.
So you pick it up. Then you're like, who is threatening me from a local number? So sometimes you pick up. If you see that it's suspicious, just hang up and call back on the number that you know is accurate. Go back to the original source of whoever is claiming to call you.
Okay.
Because numbers can be scrambled up.
So can I add something? So we're speaking about regulated entities, but this could be any company. They can call from Malta Post, they can call from whatever your service provider. So it's not just the regulated entities like the banks and the insurance companies. It could be any company.
There were other scams, to pick up on something which Lorraine is selling, is talking about emails. You get an email from your CEO with the address of your CEO asking you to pay a bill or to process an invoice. Click on this link and, you need to pay. You're an employee, the CEO asks you to send an invoice. You don't question, your gut reaction is not to question the CEO, just to complete the order or to, to carry out what he's asked. But it could be a scammer behind that. So if you get an order from your line manager, your CEO, which is there's something off, because you don't usually get those requests from the CEO. Call, check. Don't just act. Nothing. These are not life and death situations, even sometimes if they do say that they are life and death. But do check.
Can I ask you, because has this changed? Because I can remember in maybe 5-10 years ago, you would receive an email, but there would be one letter.
Yeah, the
Different.
Nigerian prince.
Exactly right. Yes, and not really. I think what you're referring to as well is decloning as well, I think. I don't know,
The email
Adelina, if you
address
want
being
to...
one letter off. We're
Yes,
talking.
exactly. Almost identical.
Exactly.
So at
Yes.
a quick glance, you don't notice
Exactly.
it, but it's
common.
not.
It's still common.
It's still very common.
It still happens today. So, if it's trudyker@gmail.com, it would be trudyker, double R,
Right.
triple R,
Triple R.
Yes,
triple
yes.
R at gmail.com. So it'd be like, okay, at first glance, you
Yes.
don't notice. It's still very, very
Exactly.
common. And it happens, to the MFSA. It happens to entities that are licensed. It happens to post office.
And the interface is exactly
Exactly the
the
same.
same. So this happens with banks as well. So you have a local bank, and you will get the same interface exactly. So if you're doing internet banking of a local bank whom you work with, you know exactly the layout, you will get exactly the same page, but it won't be. So please check the URL on top and don't click
Still,
on links.
exactly. That's
don't
what
click on
so-
links.
Number one rule, if there's a link, don't click that
Don't
link.
click on it.
If you want to access your banking website, go out and do it
The long way.
the normal route. So no clicking on links.
I'm going to come back to something you said, because you mentioned if it feels wrong. I mean, we talk about this a lot in the She Word, and that is what your gut is telling you. Listen to your gut. For instance, even with a scam, it's somebody calling up and saying, do this immediately. Your gut's going to tell you that's not how a bank would
right.
behave. That's not how a
Exactly.
financial institution would behave. And you said you can get caught up in the, oh my word. And this is not... I would just point out, I think this is not specific to any age group or demographic, because the people I'm talking about range from in their early 20s to in their 70s and everywhere in
Definitely.
between. There's not one particular... I'm going to ask you, is there one particular age demographic that's more vulnerable than others?
This goes together with who has the most income to lose. So we are seeing that older individuals, so 40s, are losing more because they have more to lose. The youth would be losing a bit. Depends. I mean, Sarah has more information, but from my experience, that's what I'm saying.
I think it depends on the type of scam as well. The romance scam seem to attract, unfortunately, the more elderly people. The younger ones, perhaps the clicking on the links because they want to get instant gratification, want to get things done
They're a bit
quickly.
more
So
rushed.
they just click on a link because this is how it works. What we are trying to do is increase consciousness outside over there, and initiatives like this one, I think, go a very long way to sensitize the public that you need to be careful. Not everyone who sends you an email wishes you well. Not everyone who calls you, or not everyone who wants to be your friend wants to be your friend. Another type of scam, which I think is even common as well, are the deepfakes. So they're very common on socials. You get a prominent person, literally lip synced and everything, promoting an investment. We had one with the Prime Minister who was promoting an investment, or a previous governor of the
Influencers or
central
whatever.
bank.
I'm going to
These
stop
people
you
wouldn't.
I'm going to just for a second, just going to stop you before we go into that, because you use the term deep fakes and not everybody knows what a deep fake is. And deep fakes are relatively new and they are getting better. So
every
I'm going to
time.
ask Adelina, what is a deep fake?
So a deep fake is what we're talking when we're talking manipulation of video, audio, visual content. So we're talking video. It would be, I'm going to talk by myself. It would be me on this podcast. They would take this video and this audio, input my voice into the machine. They would be able to the machine would learn my voice, use that machine to alter my voice and say that I'm promoting God knows what investment platform that they're trying to promote. So they're using technology to gain trust from the public. So they're using prominent people, politicians, personalities. They would use anyone that would have a public presence and that would be trusted alter my face, alter my voice, alter audio. So it's a lot of things that they can do with AI these days. So we need to be very careful.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that deepfake can also take the voice and use the voice, and
Completely.
And if there is a call that comes in that sounds like someone you know, you have to ask pertinent questions. If your gut says anything, ask a pertinent question that only that person would be able to answer.
Yes, but sometimes there are difficult situations. I heard about this case where a mom received a call from her daughter, and
Horrible.
Exactly, the daughter said, "Mom, I'm in trouble. Please send me money right now."
Yeah.
I mean, at that point in time, you're not really in a let's say comfortable position where you're going to ask her, "Oh, okay, let me ask you a question to make sure that you're
Absolutely.
my daughter." Fortunately enough, in that case, the daughter was upstairs in her bedroom, so.
Yeah.
It was obvious that it was a scam.
Definitely.
But if you're in that situation, I don't know. I ask myself, if I hear my daughter's voice on the phone and she's asking me for money,
Exactly.
It's easy to fall.
You're right. I mean, we're sitting here comfortably and we're not in a position. And that's exactly what scammers work on the human nature, the human gut reaction. It wouldn't cross my mind to actually call my daughter and check. So it's something which we have to train ourselves to do, because the instinct is that, your children are in trouble, your relatives are your loved ones are in trouble. I need to help. There's no time to lose.
It's really malicious. It's really malicious.
So we need to train ourselves to be a bit more
you're
skeptical,
actually
unfortunately.
hearing their voice. So,
I think it's also worth mentioning as well that this scam fraud industry is worth multi-billions. I was sitting on a conference, moderating a conference about compliance and regulation, and the person who had come as a keynote speaker had given an actual real-time demonstration of how there is a particular country in Asia that is 100% supported,
of course,
because they have no
industry
by the scam industry, and it's worth multi-billion dollars. And I think I'm saying that because any one of us can be scammed. Any one of us can be a victim of scamming. And I think this is where my next question comes in. As you mentioned before, that it's something that's very difficult to talk about. It's going to be difficult to turn around to your loved one, your partner, your mum, your dad, your sibling, and say, you know what, I've just lost thousands. Or I've lost 500, or I've lost 10, or even I've lost 10 euro, because there's that embarrassment. Yes. But bearing in mind that there's an incredibly intelligent, multi-billion-dollar industry that is only working to victimize you, I think that's where we have to say, okay, it could happen to anyone. If it happens to you, whether you manage to work around it and not get scammed, or whether you do fall for the scam, what do you do?
First off, cut all contact. If you've given any details, freeze your card, go to the bank. That's number one. You have to make sure that if it's already started, what you've noticed, or like, oh my God, I've already been scammed, start by trying to secure as much as you can your details and your accounts. Try to save before it's too late.
So you could actually just phone the bank or go online or walk into a branch and just say, freeze everything. I've been scammed.
100%.
And they'll act immediately.
Yes. It doesn't mean that you'll get your money back, because the ways these scammers work, the money transfer is almost instantaneous. So
but you can stop. You can
stop the damage.
You're fast enough. You could minimize the damage, and because they layer these transactions, so it goes, from Sarah to me to Lorraine to you to 5 transactions, and the bank cannot do miracles. I mean, they do their best probably, but they can't.
And I think it's important to report as well. To report 100%. To the police. It's a fraud. It's a criminal offense.
Okay, so let's run through this really methodically. First of all, if somebody's on the phone, you've given their details, you've suddenly gone, and you've tried to call back that number and it turns out that it's cut dead or it's not, you've got a gut feeling that something's not quite right, you phone or you go onto your card, you freeze everything immediately and you take a big breath, like you said, take a breath.
Don't feel bad. It can happen.
Just do what you can immediately. And probably, to be quite honest with you, phone a friend or someone just
talk
to get
to someone, honestly.
get
Get
some
it off
support.
your chest.
Absolutely. But freeze everything. Okay, so we've done that. And then you're saying to report. Now, how do you go about reporting? I mean, I would not know how to do that.
There are different ways. Obviously, if it's a financial scam, you can tell the MFSA. We can go on our website. We have a contact us page where you can tell us the scam entity or what happened, and we try to warn people so it doesn't happen again. So your story will help someone else, unfortunately. So if this happens to Adelina, I contact the MFSA, I tell them abclimited.com or whatever I'm just inventing scammed me. There will be an investigation, we will look into it, and if we find out what happened...
And that's a contact form on the MFSA
exactly.
website. Okay, cool.
And we'll warn the public, this is not a trustworthy company, be careful. But this is a criminal offense, so you should contact the Malta Police Force immediately.
Okay. So how do I contact the police? Is there a particular department that I need to contact, or I just go into my local station?
You can go to your police station
and they will guide you.
Them,
They will guide you.
I've been scammed. This is the financial scam. I need to speak to someone, and they will guide you.
Okay.
You can just go to your local police station.
Okay, that's brilliant. Because in the moment, everybody knows that they should do something, but it's not always clear as to what to do.
I think the hardest part is just accepting that it's happened.
Exactly.
And then because acting on it, then you're like, okay, I have to do step 1, step 2. But actually saying, okay, it happened. Don't beat yourself up over it.
It's a double whammy because you lost your money, even if it's just €10, but you still lost your money, let alone if it's a lot of money. So it's already a financial setback. And there's the element of shame as well. I mean, I fell for it. I shouldn't have. I should have known better.
But it's
It
okay.
happens, but it's okay. It's fine. I mean, scammers are very sophisticated.
job.
Exactly. It's their job. And as we've said, everyone has emotions and they tend to prey on emotions. We're not robots and we're not expected to behave like robots.
Can I ask you a question? Are women more vulnerable than men, or does it not make any difference?
I haven't seen it.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, cool. I mean, at least that.
Honestly, I haven't seen it. The most important thing is for people, they need to manage their expectations because these scammers will promise you something that is not achievable in the normal investment services sector. I mean, guaranteed returns.
I think the rule of thumb, there are 2 rules of thumb, basically. 2 sayings, actually. Firstly is there's no such thing as a free lunch. So no one will give you money for nothing. And if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. So if you get contacts from anyone promising you millions in returns or thousands in returns for a small investment or double over a short period of time, please stop and think. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, this leads so nicely into my next area because you just mentioned about investments. And I don't think that investments for everybody is something that we talk about, it's something that we experience, is something that we readily know about. And that might be what makes us more vulnerable to being scammed in that respect because we don't know about it. So I'm going to ask you, investments, markets, bonds, capital markets, these are not terms that we use every day. This is not, well, yes. Well, okay, let me paraphrase that and say, not something I use every day. It's not something that might turn up in everyday conversation. It's unlikely that you're going to go for a girls' night out and suddenly start talking about trade markets and so on. So before we dive into why they're irrelevant, can we just talk about the terms first? Because we've just talked about investments and somebody might call up and say, hey, listen, I've got an investment for you. But if you're not used to talking about investments, you see how that beautifully led into this. So talk to me about this. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so let's take investments. Investments, basically, you're putting your money to work. So you're buying an asset, a share or a bond or a fund, a unit and a fund. I'll get there. All right. Don't panic. Pause.
Thank you, Lorraine.
No, so basically you're buying something, an asset, which in the future will get you more money. So,
Supposedly.
Yes, because obviously there are risks as well.
Okay.
But that's why we invest. So the objective is to get more money, basically. So that's investment. Now markets. Markets, it's like any other market. So you have buyers and sellers and they're trading stuff, right? Now, in a capital market environment, you're trading these securities. So this either shares or bonds or a unit in a fund. So it's more the asset which is different, but the concepts are the same as any other market.
Can you explain to me what's the difference between a share, a bond, and an asset?
Sure. So an asset is a general term. So
Okay.
anything can fall. This glass is an asset, can be an asset. So anything. My home is my asset, my house. So now, share, when you're buying a share, you're buying a piece of that company. You're an owner of that company. You have whatever amount of shares. In a bond, you're lending money to that company. So you don't really own the company, but the company owes you back money under certain terms and conditions. So they're most probably paying you a fixed interest rate on that money. But it's not like a deposit in a bank, okay? It's not like a fixed account in a bank, which the money is deposited in a bank, and there's certain security in that. When you are lending to the company, you have to know also, you have to be aware of the risks. That company may default, for example, and you won't get your money back. So it's a little bit more complicated in that you have to understand in what you are investing. So the company, the industry.
Okay, but if you're buying a share, you are also taking a risk.
Yes. And you are owning a piece of that company. So you have to know exactly, not exactly, but you have to understand the business of that company. So is it a manufacturing company? Is it an AI company? You have to understand a little bit as well the economics behind it as well. So if we think that, let's take something simple. So there's a company and it's selling whatever, a beverage, okay? And if we see that beverage is gaining popularity, so my expectations are that the sales will increase and the company will do better. It will improve. And I'm going to see profits. And from those profits, I can gain back my returns.
Okay. So investments are when you gain an asset, which might be a share or a bond.
Or a unit in a fund.
Okay, so what's a unit in a fund?
Okay, so yes. So a fund is a collection of underlying assets. So let's break it a bit down. So if I have different shares, company A, company B, company C, company D. Let's keep it simple, okay? I can either invest directly in company A, so I buy its shares directly, or else I can buy a fund and that fund invests in company A, B, C, D. So you have more diversification, which is good for risk because
I was going to say you're spreading your risk.
Yeah, you're spreading your risk. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket, basically.
Okay.
So a fund has its advantages. Now, yes, then you have to be aware of fees because the fund, which is managing those investments, obviously, they need someone professionally to do that, and they need to get paid. So
Can I just chip in a bit? Because this is sounding very, very complicated. It isn't really. But there are people out there who are licensed by the authority to help people do these investments. The authority issues licenses for investment advisors. So there are companies whose job is to provide advice to us, to all of us. So if I have I don't know, 20,000, 10,000, I would like to invest. I'm not expected to go and actually start
Know
doing
everything
myself
myself.
because perhaps I don't understand. So I go to a licensed financial advisor and he can help me all through this maze of information.
So I'm going to come back to you because you said if you have 20,000, 10,000 euro to invest, I think for most people, that is a large amount of money. And also, not only that, but a lot of people here in Malta, at least, might consider investing that money into property or something a little bit more tangible. Now, I do happen to know a number of friends who have been investing small amounts of money, a couple of €100, and then that builds up to maybe
definitely.
a couple of thousand. So before we dive into how this works and how that is affected by how we are affected by capital markets, which is another question I want to ask. If somebody says to themselves, hey, listen, I want to invest, I want to give this a go, what's the minimum you can start with?
It depends. I mean, it depends because you need to have a bit of a critical mass. We're not talking millions or thousands of euros at this stage. But what I would suggest is if you would like to invest, start putting money away to aim for an investment until you have a sizable amount, few
Which is
hundreds.
Okay, so a few hundred. You could actually start with a few hundred?
Yes, but can I add something? Before you invest, it's important that you have a safety fund. What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, you have to put money for a rainy day. So usually the rule of thumb is 6 months pay. 6 months to a year. That you put it away and it has to be invested in something liquid. Why? Because if something happens to you or an emergency, you need those funds.
Mind is blown. Let me go back. 1
See
second.
that.
1 second. So before you even consider investing, make sure that you have a safety net.
Exactly.
And a safety net is 6 months' wages.
Rule of thumb,
Okay, 6 months' wages allocated. I'm going to speak for myself and probably a large percentage of the population and say,
I don't.
I don't have that. I haven't even thought about that. But this is what we should be aiming for.
Definitely.
Totally.
You need stability. You can't take that risk. So investments come with a certain amount of risk. So you need to be able to bear that risk that you are taking.
And you need your money immediately. So imagine something happens to you and you
a
need
health
money
emergency.
now. If you're investing, it doesn't mean that you're going to get your money there and then. So you need your money available in case something happens. It's an emergency fund. You know, small example. I know your appliances get blown out in a thunderstorm and you don't have insurance. You need to buy your appliances again. How would you do that if you don't have an emergency fund to, buy at least your dishwasher and your washing machine?
You have to
If
be
you don't have
comfortable.
insurance, to cover, there's a thunderstorm. It happens. So you need to have something or, you need to go to hospital or you need to have an emergency. Okay. Or you need to, you need to take certain medications, which is not freely available. I don't know. You have an emergency or you need to
So
fix your
every
house.
person
Every person,
should have
An emergency
6 months' salary put aside
Ideal,
as an
yeah.
emergency fund,
Yes.
as an ideal.
Yes.
That's the
that
ideal.
that would give you some financial freedom. In the sense you can get out of an abusive relationship, for
Exactly.
example. You can get out of a horrible job. That's why it's so important. to
Now,
have that.
because this is, we could sit here for literally hours having this conversation, but you just
Totally.
mentioned about an abusive relationship. And I think something that through the She Word we have focused on over and over and over again is about having an amount of financial independence. We sat here on the very first show on domestic violence. And one of the reasons that these incredible women, we had Sephora, we had Rachel, and we had Elaine, and one of the reasons that they couldn't leave the abusive situation that they're in is because of financial independence and lack thereof. And financial abuse is under the label of domestic abuse. That is that your money is held back from you. You cannot access it. You have no access. And that is an amount of control. Now, for somebody who's in that situation, I just want to caveat that by saying that it is incredibly difficult in those situations to have financial independence because of those situations. I can tell from personal experience, you go into a relationship, you think that it's beautiful, it's fantastic, you open up joint bank account, you invest all your money into a joint
That's
bank
another
account.
pitfall. That's another pitfall.
And so therefore what we're talking about is an ideal situation. But I would say to any woman, try and have a certain
Have your
amount
own.
of financial independence. Have your own bank account that only you can access and that cannot be taken away from you no matter what, no matter how much that is.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. You have to have your own account, control on that account as well. You need to be brave and discuss finance with your partner.
Which is, again, wow, they're difficult conversations.
I know. That's why be brave.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, financial issues is one of the top reasons for breakup of relationships and marriage because it is incredibly stressful. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a safety net to build a safety net in case of emergency. And once you've got that, then you can
invest.
think about investments.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So so this is an ideal. I know that for younger people today, this is actually more of a priority than it is perhaps for my generation. I've seen through conversation because we assumed, I'm speaking for myself, but a number of my peers assumed that we'd be looked after in our later years. Of course, the world changes in however many years we're on the planet. And I know that a lot of young people are now being more financially savvy than perhaps I was at your age.
You have
Let's
to.
just say-
I mean, you have no choice in today's world. You have to think about it. And when we're talking, investments or saving for a rainy day, it's important that you still keep that calm. Don't invest in products you don't understand.
Exactly.
If you don't know what you're seeing, don't put your money in it. Don't rush because a friend is doing it or you saw a website on Facebook with a link. So I'm circling
bless
back.
Facebook.
I'm circling back to my area, but it might be attractive that someone is WhatsApping you. It's half the price of an actual investment advisor. They're going to help you. They're claiming to help you, and then you fall into this pitfall where you think you're going to be secure, but you're not.
Can I just circle around something which Adelina mentioned as well? And I'd like to bring a bit to the conversation the idea of finfluencers, we call them. So financial influencers.
Whoa, hang on a second, because I'm hearing from Lorraine a whole ooh. Okay, what are they called?
Finfluencers.
Finfluencers.
So influencers, you know what an influencer is.
Obviously.
But on promoting financial services, hence the coining of finfluencers.
Okay.
So these are very popular on TikTok usually. I think TikTok is the main Instagram, but there are others as well. So you get this reel with this person telling you what a great investment, this company is offering. Look at the returns you'll be making. Look at these numbers. They actually some of them actually pull out numbers and show you and graphs. And, it's the best thing since sliced bread. You really need to invest in this or else, you're really missing out. Be careful. Every person who is authorized, who is providing investment advice needs to be licensed. 9 times out of 10, not to say 10 out of 10, these people are not licensed by the authority. So they have not gone through the fit and proper process, which I have mentioned before,
Which is very lengthy
to the
for a
checks
reason.
and balances. These people as well have conflicts. They get paid by the company. So they are not independent and they're not objective. They get paid by the company to push the sales. Their products, they're not tested. You don't know who they are. They're not licensed. So please be careful. If you want to invest, to get advice, make sure that the person is authorized either by the MFSA or by a European regulated entity. You will ask the question and you will get a reply. You need to ask the question and you will get a reply.
So we, just to interrupt there, but we should use the same skepticism as we would for thinfluencers. Those are the people that come on and they put on the pants and that, you know, and suddenly your butt looks massive and it looks really pert and everything like this. And you know that's not going to happen.
Same thing. Same
There
thing.
you go. That's what I'm saying.
Same thing
Same
exactly.
skepticism.
Same thing exactly. So what I notice as well, and this really irks me a bit. People, when they go to buy a car or a house, they ask 101 questions. Rightly so, they should continue to do it. When they ask for an investment, where do I sign? That's something which we come along.
Is that not because investments, and I guess this is coming back to you, Lorraine, investments aren't tangible in that, for the most part, we can't see them, we can't touch them. Whereas a house, you can. You walk up to a house, you see the door, you see the brickwork, you know whether it's in the right location, and you automatically know that that is something that you are going to invest in, that you're going to touch it. You know the risk that you're taking, usually. Whereas an investment is something that to most people is intangible. It's not something that we would have a thorough understanding of. You just know that it's a thing that you want to sign up for because you want to make that return on investment.
But it's actually worse, because you're letting go of something against nothing tangible. You're letting go of your hard-earned money. So if someone asks me, give me, I don't know, your money, I say, what are you going to do with it? And unless I'm convinced I understand exactly what you're going to do with it, and I understand exactly what the risks are, you will not get a cent.
However, and then I'm throwing this to you in just a second, Lorraine, but however, what I would say is it comes back to what Adelina was saying about that rush and that risk. If you find someone who is in a really dire position and they don't have that 6 month salary posted away, but they have €1,000 in their bank account and they know that they've got a bill coming that they are not going to be able to afford, and somebody comes along and says, hey, listen, come and invest in this fund, or invest in this bond, or buy these shares, the return will be X, and you will be able to make that financial commitment. That's going to hit you in an emotional place, in a need state, that is an absolute turn on for you, right? That you're like, okay, I might be able to get my way out of my financial situation right now because this person is offering an absolute miracle.
Which again, it's too good to be true. No? You cannot, I mean, again, urgency issue here, the emotions, forget emotions when you're dealing with investments. You have to think. Okay. And the fact that you cannot get rich quickly.
I'm going to come back to something that you said, which is really pertinent, is that don't invest until you have that safety net.
Yeah.
Because I think I've never heard that actually said that way before. Invest when you have that safety net, when you're in a safe place. Get that safety net first and then invest on top of that.
Yes.
Now, there was a phrase used before that I just want to clarify again. Capital markets. Okay.
Yes.
What is this and how does it affect all of us?
So basically, capital markets, we can break it down into two phases. There is a phase where a company would need funds, right? So they're doing an investment. They're building a tower.
A new office.
A new office. Okay. So they need money. So they come to the market. Instead of going to the bank, they come to the market to get that money from different investors.
Why?
It's an alternative type of funding.
Okay.
It could be cheaper, it could make more sense for their financial position to come to the market rather than the bank.
Okay.
So they come to the market, that's called the primary market. So they offer either bonds, so they ask for a loan from the investors.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm really doing well today.
Or they ask the investors to pitch in and buy a share. So they own a piece of that building. Okay. And they raise the funds. Now they go and they do their thing. They start building, whatever. And the investors, obviously, they have to wait until they get paid the interest on that bond or a dividend on that share, okay? Once you reap the profits. Now, then there is the secondary market. So let's say that you bought a bond in that company, but then during the lifetime of that bond, you decide that you want to buy something else and you want to sell that bond. You can do it on the secondary market, so on the capital markets.
Okay.
So you get that bond and through a stockbroker,
Okay.
so like the shop,
Okay.
you go and sell your bond to Sarah. You wouldn't even know Sarah. The
Okay.
stockbroker would handle the transaction, exactly.
just get you the
And you get the money. That's
Okay.
it. So it makes it easier for you to trade. Okay, so there is an element of liquidity. That's why capital markets are so important. And the company will reap the benefits of that funding. They will build the tower, they will sell whatever and they will create jobs. They will, create more activity in the economy.
So why should I know about it? Why should I be bothered about it? Why should it have any importance to me, or what a capital market is and how it affects me?
Okay, so it's either directly, so you invested in that company, so you have a vested, interest, or because of the economy, because the economy is generating more income throughout, so your relatives can find a job more easily. You have better products, you have innovation. So it's all, money
Going around.
circulating in the economy.
How can I take advantage of all of this? Give this to me in an absolute simple
Capital
view.
markets.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's either directly, so you invest in the capital markets by buying shares or bonds, you're investing, so you're growing your money for future needs, or indirectly through the economic activity that it generates. So that company that's building the tower is generating jobs, is generating economic activity, and you're benefiting from that as well. It could be also innovation, a company raising funds to innovate better products. So indirectly, we do get, we gain from all of this.
Okay. So then how does this tie in with what you do? Because obviously we've got these markets, we've got bonds, we've got investments, we've got shares, we've got funds. I'm assuming that there is a great deal of control over this.
Definitely. So if a company would like to raise funds, they would need to abide by certain requirements. One of them is producing a document, a prospectus. And in that document, they will include all the risks associated with that business activity as well. That prospectus can be used by the investors and the financial advisors to assess that investment for you.
Okay.
So yes, and obviously we do authorize them to come to the market and issue the bonds and shares. And we also enforce continuing obligations. So they need to be transparent with the market. They would need to produce financial statements and updates on their activities so that an investor is an informed investor.
Okay. You mentioned something there that I just want to touch on for a second, which is risk. Because I'm assuming even if a company or an entity has been recognized and is being approved by the MFSA, that the risks are different between each company, each entity on what they do. As you were saying that, I remembered, I just went back to a story of when I used to live in London. There was a greyhound track near where I used to live. And there was a friend of mine who had a greyhound, which was a great greyhound, really super fast, but didn't always exit the gate. So you could put a lot of money on that dog. And if it raced, it was going to do really well. Not that I'm approving of dog racing whatsoever, but just as a parallel. But it didn't always get off the start line. So that's a high risk.
So yeah,
Try return.
so basically, Depends. Like, it depends on the activity, the industry, the governance of that company. If you have people that they know what they're doing, then you have a bigger chance that they will do what they're saying that they're going to do. If not, you have trouble. And again, the financials are important as well. So the liquidity of the company, so the cash, if it's cash rich or if it's tight with cash, that could indicate problems.
Okay. So coming back to, this is something that Trudy Kerr, knows very little about. But let's say that I've avoided the scammers and that I have 6 months of my salary put aside. And I say to myself, and
Well done.
thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. And I have my property and everything is going well with that. And I'm in a very stable position right now. And I have, let's say it could be a couple of hundred or it could be a couple of thousand euro. And I say, I'd like to invest that. And I know that I need to evaluate the risk, but I don't know anything about the market. I'm going to go to, you mentioned before,
Investment advisor.
who is approved by MFSA,
Yes.
who's going to say, okay, I'm going to guide you.
It's very important. There's a process. When you go for an investment advice, it's not a 5-minute job.
Oh,
No.
So be prepared. The investment advisor will ask you a volley of questions. He doesn't do that. They don't do that because they're curious about you. They do that to help you. They need to ensure that any investments which they will recommend to you are suitable for you. So they will ask you your objectives. What do you want to achieve with this investment? So, okay, you tell him, I want my money to grow. I want to prepare, to be able to fund, I don't know, to help my kids study when they get older. So they will ask for your objectives. They will ask for your financial position. And they will ask you detailed questions, where your income is, what your savings are, what other investments you may or may not have. They're not doing this to ask you for, they're to
be intrusive.
Exactly, to be inclusive. They're just asking these questions to see whether you can take a hit. So if the investment which they will recommend doesn't come to fruition, how will that impact you financially? Are you putting all your eggs in one
so
basket?
they actually care about my
Of
well-being.
course they do. And that is what conduct supervision does. We make sure that they care.
Okay.
That's
have
my
to.
job.
Look at the smile on that face. So suddenly it's lit up in the room and Sarah's like, this is my purpose in life. I am complete. Okay, fair enough.
So, and they will also check your experience and knowledge to see whether you know. So you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to have invested before, but they need to make sure that you're understanding the characteristics of the investment they will be recommending. So this is a process. You will not go in and out with investment advice after 5 minutes. Forget it.
Okay.
It's not the right way.
We're going to come back to Adelina because whilst you have the authority to make sure that these advisors are conducting themselves in the right way, and I'm extremely happy that there is a superhero looking after that area. Just to come back to you, I'm also assuming that there are also scam artists in this area as well.
Yes, what we're seeing at the moment is what we're calling group investments by social media. So Trudy will be added to a WhatsApp group by Adelina. I'm going to be the scammer again, I apologize. I'm going to add you to a WhatsApp group and say that I am ABC Limited, which you know to be licensed, okay? But this is not the way that companies operate. But you might think that you're dealing with a licensed entity, okay? An authorized, trusted company. And I will be an advisor. I will advise you by that group. I will, give you some returns, show you a platform that doesn't exist, so a fictitious platform they've created, either with AI or a trading platform or whatever. They show you some kind of returns. You keep investing, thinking that I'm trustworthy, but this is not a licensed company. And at some point, they pull the rug from under you, and you're left with losses. And what I'm seeing, unfortunately, is that people aren't taking that 6 months. They're using their savings, their life savings, and then they come to me and they tell me the story, and I feel really, really sorry that I cannot help them because you cannot return these monies.
Is this common?
Unfortunately, yes. By social media, by WhatsApp, Telegram, people are uninformed by these expectations that are on the financial industry. So you don't just open an investment company. You go through a lot of scrutiny because we are there to make sure that your money is protected through conduct, through prospectus, through anything, even how many directors should be on the board, how many documents they should have as a company. We are there at every step of the way to protect the consumer. That is our ultimate goal. And when they don't, that is where enforcement comes in. We go in and try to correct.
You also mentioned about savings there, and that comes back to what you said about this 6 months worth of salary. You don't touch that. You never touch that.
No,
That's your
you shouldn't.
That's your
the-
emergency.
That's your emergency, your safety, your nest egg that is there in case anything goes wrong. Really good advice.
Just a word of warning, we're all humans here, and I don't want to sound preposterous or anything,
No, we're
but
not ridiculous
there is a very innate, almost instinctive element of greed in every one of us, Everyone wants to be rich. Everyone wants to be rich very quickly.
Hang on a second. Just a moment ago, you were suddenly the saint of the table because you were the conduct authority, and now you're saying we're all greedy.
No,
I'm
mean
kidding,
saying
I'm kidding.
it's a human instinct,
human
a human
nature.
willing. Everyone wants to be rich. Don't you want to be rich? Tell me no.
No, not
I won't
really.
believe you. Everyone
carry on.
wants to be rich. So everyone intrinsically wants to better his financial position. Why are we having all this conversation? So we need to be careful. Don't throw caution. We have to be careful. To be rich, you have to be careful in the sense whom to trust. And this is what we do. We make sure that the persons who are trustworthy, we ensure that the persons who are trustworthy are worthy of the trust that we put in them. Lorraine mentioned how the money goes around the economy and how investments in the capital markets helps us make a better economy, better for us. So money is like the blood that goes around the economy in a human body. It's like the blood. Trust is the pump that pumps the blood. If there's no trust, there's no pump, the blood will dry out, the body will die. It's the same analogy. So be careful. We can protect, the MFSA does protect, but that does not mean that each and every one of us, and I'm putting myself into this as well, we need to be careful. We have to be careful of our action. The fact that there's the regulator, there's the police, there's the government or whoever, doesn't remove from the responsibility each and every one of us faces to be careful, to make sure we understand what we are getting ourselves into. The MFSA doesn't guarantee products. It doesn't say, I'm approving this product and this product will guarantee you a return of X, Y, or you'll get your money back. It's an investment. There's risk out there. So what we are trying to achieve here is make sure that people make informed investment decisions. Yeah. You cannot make an informed investment decisions if you don't understand the product. Yeah. So, for example...
It's okay.
We want to empower.
Exactly.
People.
It doesn't matter if you ask your investment advisor or your, 1,001 questions. You're paying directly or indirectly. It's their time. It's their job to explain and to make sure that you understand what the product is. There's no shame in saying, listen, I don't understand. Can you explain again?
I want to follow up by everything that we've just discussed here, and I want to bring a context into this. In every single area, whether it's savings, whether it's scam, whether it's investments, and that is, do women behave differently to men? Because women are usually more cautious in most areas. Mm-hmm. However, we've just mentioned about female financial empowerment. And whether that's investments, whether that's the 6-month safety fund, whether it's about having the very basics of having an independent bank account, whether it's being more vulnerable to scam. Is there a difference between the way men and women behave in these areas?
We have just carried out a survey amongst consumers. The results are still being analyzed, but there are some trends which came out with investors, which women investors and female investors and male investors. Something which came out is that female investors shy away from investing because they admit that they don't understand. And I stress the word admit. So women are more likely, if you had to ask a question to a woman, women are more likely to say, okay, I don't understand, so I move away. Males typically tend to not admit. Yes, I was going to use that word, but I didn't. So yes, thanks, Lorraine.
Well done, Lorraine.
To actually, plod on and then, reap the consequence. So women usually, look, I don't understand, I won't invest. Another finding which came out is that when it comes to understanding how bonds work, and I'm mentioning specifically bonds, it's because I believe bonds are the most common instruments quoted on our local stock exchange. They're the most locally, we're just talking locally. They have less knowledge than men do. And another thing which came out, which I feel is quite interesting, is that women reported less planning for retirement. And
This is what I was about to ask.
Something else, they see that the purchase of their home is their ultimate financial goal. So give me my house, give me my property, I will invest in my property, and that's it with me.
Which is still an investment.
Yes, but the property is illiquid in the sense it's not easy to sell. If you need money, apart from the emergency fund, if you need a significant amount of money, it's very difficult to sell your property at the right at the right time and at the right price.
So my question to you, Lorraine, who is more likely to have that 6-month buffer? Is it men or women? Or does it matter? Or are they equally the same?
I wouldn't know. I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
If it's Sarah has a different opinion.
I think the way social expectations, social roles makes it a bit more difficult for women, and I will explain why. On paper, I used to wish to think that men and women are equal. But when you look into it, when you look at the numbers and the reality on life, it's not as clear-cut as it should be. So who takes the most career breaks, whether to care for kids or for elderly parents? Usually the woman who does.
It's not usually, it is statistically proven that it is the woman who is the carer in a household, therefore more likely to look after children, very, very much more likely to look after elderly or ailing relatives, and therefore are financially, which is why you were saying about the 6 months, and which is why I come back and say, that's great, but I would say that for most women that's actually a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great ideal, but for most women it's more difficult because we are financially more challenged than our male counterparts. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to really empower women to treat this seriously, to treat this as we discussed at the table, for all of those situations that we find ourselves in. Women live longer than men. Women go through these career breaks that men usually don't.
Exactly.
So that female financial empowerment is vitally important.
Can I pick you up on that as well? The unfortunate part of that is, unfortunately, I say, the financial system is not built to cater for this. So, for example, when you go to take a loan, it's usually more difficult because if you look at, if you're a female, you're unmarried, you go as a single person, and you need to stop for a career break, the way a loan is structured may not necessarily take into account the fact that you're taking a career break. Well, not necessarily, I'm saying it, I'm not, when you go
I'm also going to
life
sidetrack you there as well, because we happen to know, and we've discussed it on this show in the last season, that also a lot of institutions, and I know that now there's a very much more an intervention into this, but institutions use AI to profile applications for credit and for loans. And women are at a disadvantage because the loans will penalize women. There was a very famous report where 2 individuals went to apply for the same loan in the same household, the man and the woman was the major breadwinner, and she was turned down for exactly the same loan. And I think it's important to be mindful of that, because we as women have to fight for the same level of entitlement on occasion that our male counterparts have to. And I think I think it's useful to be mindful of that.
Yes, and to address that, there's an AI Act now. So
Yes.
it's trying to address what you are saying.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Discrimination.
Yes.
But if we said that maybe the house, your home, it's an investment. Just a bit of cautious here, to be a bit cautious here, because if you're living in that house, you need that house. So it's not really an investment for you, but for your kids perhaps, but not for you. So we have to be a bit cautious there. I know that there is this mentality, yes, I have my home and I'll use that. But
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Find a home and go, and sell your house? And maybe the kids are expecting that will be given to them,
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting. It's really interesting
yeah.
that you say that, because absolutely, it's not something that you can just, as you said, just sell up and then and
what are you
access
going
that
to do?
investment.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to have a look into, just for a moment, what advice would be for younger women in all of the context of everything that we've discussed at this table, in the context of scamming, of investments, and just good financial management. Do you have advice for younger women?
Yeah. I would say there's a rule, the 50-30-20 rule. So whatever income...
50, 20, 30.
50, 30, 20.
Okay, the other way around, yeah.
Okay, but you can swap the 30 with the 20. So 50, whatever income you have, 50 is for your needs, 30 is for your wants, and 20 you need to save. Always.
Okay, this is really exciting. What's the difference between want and needs?
Okay, so basically the needs is the food, the shelter, your basic needs. Something now, mobiles it's a need to a certain extent. The wants is like going out,
Shopping.
shopping,
Something you
going
can live
abroad,
without.
something that exactly.
Okay.
But the 20% you need to stick to it. So start young. Start saving the 20%, even if you're getting a stipend at university. That's
true.
Start with that, because it's all about mindset.
You train yourself to save.
Yes.
It's a
You will-
habit.
Yes, you will not get rich by saving your stipend, but it will put you in the right frame of mind. When you will get a salary, you will not find it impossible to say no to a trip abroad because I really need the money. It's just training your mind. It's training.
Okay. So for a younger person, when I say I'm going to save that, where am I going to put it?
When you're very young, you can start with a saving account, a fixed account, and then you can start investing in the capital markets.
Okay, cool. So once you, the same rule
again,
applies. Once you have that buffer,
But at
you can
least
start
Just be
doing.
careful who you trust.
Exactly. Always. Yeah.
Okay.
Another tip is relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, surround yourself with people that can challenge you, that you can grow, and you can upskill yourself. That's very important. Choosing a partner. Very, very important. Okay, so perhaps when you're young, romance, it's all beautiful and appealing. Be careful and be brave. Start discussing these issues.
So you should start discussing financial issues if you're 21, 22 and going into a new
Definitely. Yeah.
relationship.
Even
Younger.
You should
Just
start
as an example.
No, I make it a point with my kids that we discuss financials. They are 17. I have a 17-year-old and an 11-year-old. They have
But
their
if your
account.
17-year-old goes out on a date and starts dating someone and starts getting into a relationship and it looks, like they should be discussing their financial situation.
Yes. Why not? Like, what motivates your partner? Like, if he's into saving or not, if he's into spending.
Exactly.
And there's the lifestyle trap with the young. I see it a lot.
Yes.
So, you have to have certain brands. You need to travel at least once, twice a year. You have to be careful. Those are the lifestyle traps, You have always to question yourself. If I'm spending this money, will it help me for my financial freedom or not? you have to balance. I'm not saying, listen, don't go abroad, don't experience life, because that is important. But you have to find a balance, a good, healthy balance.
Awesome. Adelina, I'm going to come to you. When it comes to young women and scams, what are they specifically? I know we spoke about this before, but I want to reiterate this. What are they specifically vulnerable to?
To be honest, we are not seeing a big difference between men and women in scams. We are seeing them a bit less, so men are more prone because of the same reasons that we've discussed. They're more likely to take the risk than women are. Women are like, no, I don't invest my money because I don't know, or I'd rather save it than invest it. But usually it's the same things. Online platforms, something comes up. But what we're seeing a lot with women are MLMs. I don't know if you know what an MLM is.
I do not know what an MLM is.
A multi-level marketing scheme. So we're seeing women being approached by different businesses to sell a product, for example. Let's say you're selling beauty products or you're selling whatever. These are promoted as alternative business for women. So they are targeted as, you have your own business or working mommy. They target women specifically for that want of independence. So we're seeing this in the financial sector where you'd have a scheme. We're calling it a multi-level marketing scheme because I'm recruiting people. So your job is to recruit people, okay? So I'm working for the scheme and we're hopefully have a product or not, it doesn't matter. The point is, you've heard of a pyramid scheme and financial.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing,
Okay.
but it is backed by some kind of product. So there are a lot of successful multi-level marketing schemes right now. I'm not going to mention them, but there are a lot. They sell makeup or they sell slimming products or whatever. So this is a very women-dominated market. But the same market abuses women because if I have 10 people that I've onboarded, okay, so I get 50 euro for onboarding Lorraine, 50 euro for onboarding Trudy, 50 euro for onboarding Sarah. And then I tell you, okay, Sarah, if you want to make money, you need to start doing the same. So you're pushed into the same lifestyle and then again and again and again, and the money is being made off of someone else's backs. So it is a bit of a toxic environment. These pyramid schemes prey on women's want for independence, which is very good to want that, but they use it against them, and the money is actually coming from other women rather than business. More abroad than in Malta. I haven't seen a lot, but we have seen some, and we were very concerned because they're come together with these influencers. So the influencers are the ones that are in the pyramid schemes and in the MLMs, and they use their large audience to onboard people and get money from referrals, onboarding is what we're calling, this referral fee. You click the link, Lorraine clicks my link, I get the money. You don't get much from it, but I get the income.
Anything else that is specific to young women, before we move into the older generations, anything that's specific that you're seeing, behaviors online or offline, specific to young women, just so that if that happens to them, they can say, I know Adelina talked about this.
Yeah, so if someone is promising a certain lifestyle, they're telling you, you can just work 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, doing X job, being onboarding people or referrals or something. Be mindful. If your job is to recruit someone else, that is a red flag. That's not a job. If you're recruiting people, at some point, it might be that this scheme will fall. I don't know 100%. Don't risk your lifestyle on referrals and, you need to have a tangible job.
Okay. Sarah, anything else specific to young women?
Yeah, be careful, but be brave. I want to pick up on what Lorraine said as well. I mean, we tend to tell women all the time, be careful, but be brave. I mean, there's no holding back. I sometimes struggle with giving advice practically to males or females. It's the same world we're living in. It's true, females have a bit more challenges, but especially if they're at a very, very young age, practically, I mean, it's the same thing. They start experimenting with getting their own money. Important, yes, to speak about financials. I mean, there's no age. As soon as they're born, if you give them €5 pocket money when they're 5 years old, that's already talking about money.
Listen, €5 at 5 years old, that's pretty good.
That's a lot. Yes. Oh, yeah. Inventing. Again, teach them that there's work behind money. Money doesn't grow on your mobile phone. Today, they don't say money grows on trees. Today, they just see a transfer on a mobile phone. They don't actually see the physical money. There's risk. Nothing comes without a risk. Nothing in the world is guaranteed. We see a lot of young people investing in cryptos. It's the flavor of the month. There are risks. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but there are risks. If you don't understand, be careful. Make sure you understand before you go into them. Don't rush. So take your time.
And you touched on crypto. I think crypto could be a whole show all by itself, because I think that it is, it has been trending for a number of years. And if we don't understand it, it is a minefield of risk. Okay, I want to move on. Before we close, I want to move on to older generations, because we talked about this whole idea because we have an older generation that watches the show. And we talked about this idea of putting 6 months of your income aside and good financial behavior. And I would say that that's great. That is absolutely fantastic. When we had this show that I mentioned right at the very beginning, Sue Caruana made the statement that as a young person, put a percentage of your income aside and make sure that you have this nest egg, that you have this here. And I said to Sue, did you do that? And she's like, no. And she and I are similar age. And neither of us have done that. And I only started really making savings probably about 2010, so 15 years ago. And now in the last number of years have started to become much more serious about financial safety and financial futures. However, I don't think it's ever too late. It's never too late to get your house in order. What would be the recommendation for anybody that's in my position that still thinks they're 25, that's been running around enjoying life for whatever reason it's true? How would I then start to get my house in order? Because I'm also mindful of the fact that, and I've been very public about this, I'm buying my very first home at the moment, or I have bought my very first home.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed. It was a big deal. But the mortgage on that is not the same as it would have been if I'd done this 20 years ago. So what is your advice in each of these aspects for somebody who's a little bit older?
Okay. I would start with a status check. So sit down, get everything out on the table, and assess your position at that point in time. So any assets, any liabilities, any debt that you have to reduce. You have to make a plan to reduce your debt. Okay, so you start from there. Assets, you protect.
How do you protect your assets?
So again, if you have a house, insurance, think about insurance. Your health is your asset as well. Again, think about insurance. I mean, as we grow up, and there's more risk to our health. So yes, that's important. So again, think about insurance, protect what you have. So, even if you have an amount of money, see where you can invest it. Now, the more we grow up, the less risk, because we cannot afford to lose an amount of money, and we don't have the time to recoup. Okay, so assets you protect, liabilities you reduce.
Okay, that's really good advice. Really, really good advice. I'm going to come to you, Adelina, because of this whole idea of this romancing and scams and so on.
I would say, don't be afraid of technology.
Exactly.
It is there to help us, but be mindful of what is it being used for. So those that are a bit older, I would recommend asking a question. If you have someone younger in your life, if you see something, ask. I know that there's a pride that comes at an older age. You don't want to look like you don't know something, or you just don't, I'm not going to ask someone younger. It's okay. It's totally okay not to know. It's totally okay to ask questions, and be careful of these use of technology against us. So I know that they might be reluctant to try, for example, mobile banking. They'd rather go to the branch. But it comes to a point where it's not feasible. We're seeing now banks are closing branches, or they're having less and less face-to-face, though in Malta it's still present because we do have an older population, and we encourage that there's still that face-to-face interaction, but it comes with risks. Learn, read about how to use your mobile banking, go to the branch, they'll help you. They'll take you through the app, they'll show you how it's being used, they'll tell you the risks, they'll tell you, we'd never send you a text message. So they coach you, so they're there to help you. So I would say don't be afraid to go out and ask. Be open, and then when it comes to romance scams, I know this is quite a sensitive topic. Some people might feel lonely or they would feel vulnerable. Don't feel ashamed that you fell for something. It's human. We all want a connection. I think it's completely normal. Just reach out to someone else. Don't fight your family members when they tell you this is a risk, because we've seen this. We've seen older individuals saying, you don't know what you're talking about, they're my friend. Your family is trying to protect you. I know it's hard to admit that someone's being deceitful to you, but just take it slow, listen to the people around you, and you'll be fine. In terms of investments, I know some of them have some savings. Don't throw them at the first WhatsApp message, please.
Yeah.
I beg. Be careful. There are authorized people that are there to guide you and help you with kindness and patience, and they're very well trained to answer all your questions as they should be. So take your time, and society is here to help you. I mean, we're helping youngsters, we're helping older, so I think it's only normal to expect that we're all treating each other with kindness. That's what I would say. Don't think that you are a burden. That's very important.
Thank you. And for you?
It's really unfair you leave it to the last. They take all my good points.
Sorry.
But I want to re-emphasize that as well. What the older generation has, which the youngest generation does not, is a very important asset. It's experience.
Okay.
So people have felt things on their skin. They get a better sense of judgment as well. So trust your instincts a bit better. Yes, do the exercise which Lorraine has mentioned. Put your assets and your liabilities on the table. Protect the assets. Do away with the liabilities as much as you can. Scams as well, yes, be careful, but on the other side, technology is not bad. It's your helper. I mean, if we had to go against innovation and against improvements in technology, I don't think we'd be using electricity today, or we'd still be washing clothes with our hands rather than using a washing machine. So technology is something to be embraced with the necessary caution, which I think the older generation does already have. So don't be afraid to trust your instincts and to rely on your experience. So your experience is there to have you actually in a better position. There are a number of initiatives going around or adverts going around for buy now, pay later schemes. And they are very, very attractive because all you would say, oh, it's just 20 euros a month. I can afford 20 euros a month. It's not a problem. I get my, curler. Another 20 euros a month. I can afford another 20 euros. I change my mobile phone. Without knowing, you will be building up a debt bill. It's not on your credit card, it's taking it out of your salary probably, but you will be building up a liability over the next 2, 3, 4 years. Is that healthy? If you're young, perhaps you might not have the money, and that's another argument. But as you're approaching your older age and as your needs become different, I think you need to start assessing how you are, rather than increasing your credit, you should be limiting your credit.
Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, she's saying a very important part. Subscriptions. Last week, I was having this conversation with my son. So he plays on obviously the PlayStation, and he buys games. Subscription here, subscription. We sat down and we did the calculations. I mean, the amount was ridiculous. So sometimes, as Sarah was saying, a little bit of here, there, the everyday maybe coffee, fancy coffee, the lunches. When you add them up, then you'll end up with a substantial amount.
But these subscriptions, this is my takeaway today, because I know that I've signed up for, through business, a lot of subscriptions for web hosting or whatever. Maybe it might be an image bank library, so on and so forth. And they add up and you don't even notice because they don't see them coming out of your bank account. And suddenly you are in a lot of commitments. Listen, ladies, this table has had so many hacks and tips and really good advice. And I want to say a massive thank you. I know there's been so many takeaways for me from this conversation. And I want to say a massive thank you. Just one last word. If there's any confusion or if there's any concerns, our listeners can get in touch with the MFSA through the website, through the contact page.
MFSA.mt.
Yes.
Say that one again.
MFSA.mt.
Yes.
MFSA.mt, and they can get in touch and air those concerns with you, whether it be from scams, whether it be from somebody who is offering advice that maybe perhaps don't sound qualified to do so, but they can get in touch with MFSA and you can guide them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.